1793. Paris runs red. You think you know the French Revolution, liberty, equality, fraternity, the guillotine as a merciful invention. What the textbooks skip are the executions that made even hardened Jacobins look away. 7. Deaths so brutal they were buried in committee records and diplomatic cables, bodies that disappeared, families erased from history, methods that violated every principle the revolution claimed to stand for. If you value documented revolutionary history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Archives Nationales and Simon Schama's Citizens. Now back to the story. These 7 cases, each one sanctioned by the Committee of Public Safety. Each one designed to send a message that terror alone couldn't deliver. Number 1. Marie-Jeanne Leprince, September 14th, 1793, Rue Saint-Antoine. The baker's wife who hoarded grain during the bread riots. Standard charge, conspiracy against the liberty of the nation. Standard sentence, guillotine. But the crowd wanted more. They dragged her from the cart before it reached the scaffold, tore her apart in the street, pieces scattered across 7 blocks. The committee didn't stop them. They watched. Revolutionary. Tribunal records show 43 witnesses signed depositions. None were prosecuted. Robespierre's note in the margin, the people's justice precedes the law's justice. Her bakery was demolished that night. The lot stayed empty until 1815. The mob had been building for weeks. Bread prices hit 18 sous per pound. Working families spent 80% of their income on flour alone. Marie-Jeanne's cellar held 230 sacks when neighbors broke down her door. Enough grain to feed 50 families for a month. She screamed about royal orders, about protecting reserves for the coming siege. Nobody listened. Antoine Fouquier-Tinville's tribunal notes describe the scene. The accused was removed from legal process by popular intervention. Clean language. For a woman pulled limb from limb by starving hands. Her husband Jules watched from their shop window. He never spoke again. Died 3 months later, cause unknown. Their daughter Marguerite was shipped to a foundling hospital in Lyon. Record lost after 1795. The committee's real target wasn't Marie-Jeanne. It was her supplier network. 7 merchants across Paris storing grain for winter distribution. The mob violence served dual purpose: eliminate hoarding and terrorize the grain trade into compliance. Within a week, every major flour dealer had opened their stores to city inspectors. Price controls became enforceable through fear rather than law. Revolutionary justice at its most efficient. Accused, tried, devoured. Number 2. Cardinal Louis René Edouard de Rohan. October 2nd, 1793, Conciergerie prison. The diamond necklace affair cardinal who embarrassed Marie Antoinette. Sentenced to death, but execution delayed for enhanced interrogation. Prison records show he lasted 9 days. Fingernails removed with heated iron, joints dislocated with the strappado. Confession extracted on day 7, names of 23 royalist conspirators across Europe. None existed. He signed anyway. Final torture. The water cure until his stomach burst. Official cause of death. Natural causes during detention. His body was thrown into the Seine. The confession became the basis for purging the émigré networks. Day 1. Standard questioning about correspondence with foreign courts. Rohan maintained innocence. Day 2. Stripped and chained to interrogation chair. Iron heated in brazier beside him. Still refused to confess. Day 3. First fingernail removed. Right thumb. Took 47 minutes to extract. Rohan screamed names: his gardener, his cook, his confessor. Anyone to stop the pain. Day 4. Strappado introduced. Rope and pulley system dislocating shoulders. Weight added every hour. His arm separated from joints after 6 hours. Still claimed no foreign conspiracy. The committee needed those names for their war against Austria and Prussia. Enemy agents funding counter-revolutionary activity from Vienna and Berlin. They had evidence of gold shipments through Swiss banks, but no names on the receiving end. Rohan's aristocratic connections made him the perfect source. Problem was, most connections existed only in the committee's imagination. The cardinal's actual crime was offending Marie Antoinette 15 years earlier through the diamond necklace. Scandal. Old grudges dressed as revolutionary justice. Day 7 broke him completely. Water cure began at dawn. Funnel forced down his throat. Water poured until lungs filled. Breathing stopped. Resuscitation. Repeated 18 times before. He signed the confession. 23 names spanning Europe's royal courts. The committee launched immediate arrests across French territories. Agents dispatched to London, Madrid, Vienna. 16 people died in foreign prisons based on Rohan's tortured testimony. None had ever met the cardinal. His death on day 9 was almost merciful. Stomach lining torn from excessive water torture. Internal bleeding for 6 hours. Prison records list time of death as 4:23 in the morning. Body weighted with stones and dropped into the Seine from Pont-Neuf. Resurfaced 3 days. Later, near Saint-Germain, fishermen identified the cardinal's signet ring still embedded in swollen flesh. Ring confiscated by authorities. Melted down for treasury funds. Number 3. Olympe de Gouges, November 3rd, 1793, Place de la Révolution, author of the Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen. Her crime? Demanding women's political equality under the new constitution. The committee branded her a monarchist agent. Standard execution turned spectacle. They stripped her naked before 10,000 spectators, made her crawl to the scaffold. The executioner missed deliberately on the first drop. The blade caught. Her shoulders. She screamed for 2 minutes while blood pooled below. Second drop severed the spine. Her pamphlets were burned in the same square 3 days later. Witnesses counted 473 books in the fire. Olympe's real threat wasn't her writing. It was her organizing. Women's Political Society met weekly in her Rue Saint-Honoré apartment. 67 members by October 1793. They demanded voting rights, property ownership, divorce law reform. Revolutionary leadership tolerated female support but feared female independence. Women's participation was crucial for street demonstrations and grain riots. Women's leadership challenged male revolutionary authority. The committee fabricated evidence linking her to Austrian agents, forged letters between Olympe and Marie Antoinette discussing counter-revolutionary strategy. Handwriting analysis later proved the forgeries, but not until 1842. Revolutionary Tribunal accepted the evidence without question. Women couldn't be political thinkers, only agents of masculine conspiracy. Foreign masculine conspiracy at that. Her execution was designed to humiliate every woman watching. Clothing. Removal symbolized stripping away unnatural political pretensions. Crawling to the scaffold demonstrated proper feminine submission. The crowd's jeers were recorded by police observers. Back to your kitchens. No votes for whores. Die like the traitor you are. 10,000 voices, silencing one woman's demand for equality. The executioner's accident was planned. Charles-Henri Sanson received explicit instructions from the committee. Make her suffer visibly. The first blade drop was calculated to sever shoulder muscles while preserving consciousness. Olympe's screams lasted 2 minutes and 14 seconds. By witness accounts, long enough for the crowd to understand the price of female political ambition. Second drop was clean decapitation. Her pamphlet, burning 3 days later, eliminated physical evidence of women's political thought. 400 and 73 copies of Declaration of the Rights of Woman, reduced to ash. Also burned, her play, The Slavery of Negroes, her essay, The Political Testament, and 67 personal letters from women across France discussing political participation. Intellectual erasure following physical elimination. Subscribe. If you're learning something new here, this research takes serious time to dig up. The Women's Political Society disbanded immediately. Members fled Paris or retreated to domestic life. Female political organization didn't reemerge until the 1840s. Olympe's execution became the template for silencing revolutionary women. Charlotte Corday, Madame Roland, Lucille Desmoulins all faced similar public humiliation before death. The revolution's commitment to equality ended where feminine authority began. Silenced, burned, forgotten. Number 4. Jacques-Pierre Brissot, October 31st, 1793, Bordeaux execution ground. Leader of the Girondists. Faction who opposed centralized terror. Captured fleeing to Switzerland with state treasury documents worth 230,000 livres. The committee wanted those documents. Standard interrogation failed. They brought in Jean-Baptiste Carrier, the Noyades specialist from Nantes. Brissot's torture. Repeated near drowning in the Garonne River. Pulled up at the moment of death. Revived. Submerged again. This continued for 6 hours across 2 days. He revealed the Girondist escape routes through Spain and England. Execution by drowning, tied to a stone block and dropped in the deepest river bend. His body surfaced. 8 days later, bloated beyond recognition. The treasure maps led to arrests. In Madrid and London. Brissot represented federalist opposition to Jacobin centralization. The Girondists wanted provincial autonomy, limited terror, constitutional democracy. Their vision threatened the committee's emergency powers. As long as war raged with foreign coalitions, centralized authority remained justified. Peace would demand power sharing with provincial governments. The committee needed permanent emergency to maintain control. The stolen treasury documents contained more than gold locations. Detailed correspondence with Federalist leaders across 23 departments. Plans for coordinated resistance to Jacobin authority. Names of provincial officials secretly supporting Girondist positions. Bank account numbers for émigré funds. Flowing through London and Amsterdam. Military intelligence about royalist uprising preparations in the Vendée. Enough evidence to destroy Federalist opposition permanently. Standard interrogation yielded nothing. Brissot endured beatings, sleep deprivation, heated iron applications. His commitment to Federalist principles remained unbroken after 5 days. The committee dispatched Carrier from Nantes specifically for his drowning expertise, the Republican marriages specialist who perfected mass execution through submersion. His method combined psychological torture with precise physiological manipulation. The Garonne drowning began at dawn on October 29th. Brissot was stripped, weighted with 30-pound iron chains, then lowered into the deepest river section. Water temperature, 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Hypothermia accelerated oxygen deprivation. Carrier's innovation was timing, pulling victims up at the precise moment before brain death occurred. Revival took 15 minutes of chest compression and forced breathing. Consciousness returned with complete memory of drowning sensations. First session lasted 2 hours. Brissot revealed Swiss bank account locations, but refused to name provincial contacts. Second session targeted psychological breakdown. Carrier's men showed him portraits of his wife and 3 children, described their capture in detail. There, planned executions, unless cooperation improved. This combined physical torture with emotional manipulation, unprecedented in revolutionary interrogation. Session 3 broke his resistance completely. Names poured out. Provincial Girondist leaders, émigré funding sources, British intelligence contacts, Spanish escape route facilitators. 47 individuals across 6 countries. His information led to mass arrests within 10 days. The Federalist network collapsed entirely. Jacobin centralization became irreversible. His execution was almost anticlimactic. Stone block weighed 160 pounds. Chains secured around waist and ankles, dropped into the Garonne's deepest bend at 4:15 in the afternoon. Current carried his body downstream toward Toulouse. Fishermen found him 8 days later, decomposed beyond visual identification. Only his signet ring confirmed identity. The treasure maps proved accurate. Revolutionary agents recovered gold worth 193,000 livres from Geneva banks. Remaining 37,000 had funded Girondist escape attempts. British authorities arrested 12 French refugees in London based on Brissot's intelligence. Spanish police captured 8 more in Barcelona. The Federalist International Network died with its leader's confession. Number 5. Charlotte Corday's family. December 15th, 1793, Caen countryside. Marat's assassin died in July, but the committee wanted collective punishment. Her father, 2 brothers, 1 sister, and 3 cousins. 7 people executed not for conspiracy, but for blood relation to a regicide. Revolutionary law had no precedent for family guilt, so they created one. Each family member faced individual charges: harboring treasonous thoughts, failing to report seditious activities, sharing counter-revolutionary bloodline. The executions took place in their family courtyard. Same guillotine, moved house to house. Neighbors forced to witness each beheading. The family estate was salted after the executions. Nothing grew there for 30 years. Property records show it sold for 7 livres in 1825. Charlotte's assassination of Marat on July 13th created a martyrdom problem for the committee. The friend of the people became revolutionary saint overnight. His death demanded justice beyond individual punishment. Blood guilt extending to family connections satisfied popular demands for comprehensive revenge. Ancient practice dressed in revolutionary language. The legal framework was invented specifically for the Corday case. Decree of December 1st, 1793. Enemies of the people contaminate their bloodline with treasonous principles. Family members sharing counter-revolutionary blood bear collective responsibility for individual crimes. Constitutional lawyers protested. The decree violated natural law principles. Their objections were noted and ignored. Charlotte's father, Jacques-François de Corday, faced the first trial. Charges raising: a daughter capable of regicide, failing to instill proper revolutionary values, maintaining aristocratic prejudices that corrupted family thinking. Evidence: Charlotte's royalist sympathies, her reading of counter-revolutionary literature, her correspondence with émigré nobility. His defense argued paternal ignorance of daughter's political development. Tribunal rejected the argument. Parental responsibility was absolute under revolutionary law. His execution occurred in the family courtyard at dawn on December 15th. Portable guillotine transported from Caen city center. 43 neighbors assembled as mandatory witnesses. Jacques-François maintained dignity throughout the proceedings. His final words: "I die for my daughter's conscience, not her crime." Decapitation was swift. Head fell into the same basket that would collect 6 more within hours. Charlotte's brothers, Jean-Jacques and François Charles, died next. Both had fled to England after their sister's arrest, but were captured attempting to return for their father's trial. Charges: desertion from revolutionary duty, collaboration with foreign enemies, sharing regicidal bloodline. Their correspondence from London provided evidence of émigré connections. Letters discussed potential royalist uprising support from British intelligence services. The executions continued at 2-hour intervals. Same courtyard, same witness crowd, same guillotine blade. Charlotte's sister, Marie Françoise, was charged with conspiracy through feminine sympathy. Her diary contained passages praising Charlotte's courage, questioning Marat's revolutionary virtue. Revolutionary tribunals considered women especially susceptible to counter-revolutionary sentiment through emotional weakness. Marie Françoise's emotional defense of her sister proved her political contamination. 3 cousins completed the family elimination. Pierre, Augustin, and Jean-Baptiste de Corday had maintained correspondence with Charlotte throughout 1793. Their letters discussed revolutionary excesses, criticized committee policies, expressed sympathy for moderate positions, evidence sufficient for conspiracy charges under expanded treason definitions. The final execution occurred at sunset. Jean-Baptiste de Corday, 17 years old, had written Charlotte supporting her decision to kill Marat. His letter called her action necessary for France's salvation from radical tyranny. Revolutionary tribunals treated adolescent political opinions as adult treason. Age provided no legal protection from revolutionary justice. 7 heads, 7 family members, 7 examples of blood guilt justice. The estate was salted with chemical compounds preventing plant growth. Revolutionary symbol of permanent contamination. Nothing grew on Corday land until 1823, when new owners imported fresh soil. Property value remained depressed for decades. 7-livre purchase price in 1825 reflected continued revolutionary stigma. Number 6. Father Henri Grégoire's Altar Boys. January 23, 1794, Church of Saint-Germain-des-Prés, the constitutional priest who supported revolution but refused to abandon Catholic ritual. His crime, holding secret masses during the de-Christianization campaign. The committee couldn't touch Grégoire directly, too popular with moderate revolutionaries, so they took the children, 11 altar boys, ages 8 to 14, charged as accomplices to seditious religious assembly. No precedent existed for executing children this young. The committee invented one. Corruption of youth through superstitious practices threatens the Republic's future. They were hanged, not guillotined, to avoid the dignity of a political execution. Grégoire watched from a cell window. He broke after the 7th child died. Signed the oath abandoning priesthood completely. The church was converted to a temple of reason the next morning. Grégoire represented constitutional clergy who accepted revolutionary authority while maintaining Catholic faith. His position threatened de-Christianization policy demanding complete religious abandonment. Constitutional priests legitimized partial religious practice, undermining total secularization goals. The committee needed absolute religious surrender, not theological compromise. The secret masses began in November 1793. Grégoire conducted services in Saint-Germain-des-Prés church basement after official closure. Congregation included 37 families maintaining Catholic practice despite revolutionary prohibition. Services occurred weekly, hidden from authorities by loyal parishioners. Children participated as altar servers, maintaining traditional liturgical roles. Revolutionary spies infiltrated the congregation in December. Agent reports documented 11 boys assisting with Catholic ritual, carrying candles, preparing communion wine, reciting Latin. Responses. Committee lawyers argued child participation proved systematic corruption of Republican youth. Religious instruction violated revolutionary education principles. Children exposed to Catholic teaching would carry counter-revolutionary ideas into adulthood. Legal precedent for child execution was non-existent in French law. Revolutionary tribunals had avoided prosecuting minors for political crimes. Social pressure demanded protecting children from adult political consequences. The committee overcome this obstacle through redefining the children's role. They weren't innocent victims of adult manipulation. They were willing participants in seditious activity. The charges were carefully constructed. Voluntary participation in counter-revolutionary religious assembly with intent to preserve anti-republican superstition. Evidence included witness, testimony of children reciting banned prayers, carrying forbidden religious objects, demonstrating knowledge of prohibited Catholic doctrine. Their cooperation with illegal worship proved conscious counter-revolutionary intent. Trial proceedings lasted 3 days. Each child faced individual questioning about religious beliefs, revolutionary loyalty, understanding of Republican principles. Ages 8 to 14, they answered with Catholic catechism responses. Asked about God, they mentioned divine authority above earthly government. Asked about salvation, they referenced eternal life beyond revolutionary society. Their answers proved religious contamination incompatible with Republican citizenship. Hanging was selected over guillotining to demonstrate contempt for their crime. Political prisoners deserved decapitation's swift dignity. Religious criminals merited strangulation's slower degradation. Execution occurred in church courtyard before assembled congregation. 37 families forced to witness children's deaths. Lesson in consequences of religious resistance. Gregoire watched from cell window overlooking the courtyard. Each child died individually, rope around neck, hoisted by pulley system. Struggle lasted 2 to 5 minutes depending on body weight. Youngest boy, Pierre Marchand, age 8, took longest to die. His legs kicked for 4 minutes before movement. Stopped. Seventh child's death broke Gregoire's resistance completely. His oath, abandoning priesthood, was signed immediately after execution concluded. Document renounced religious authority, proclaimed sole loyalty to revolutionary government, promised cooperation with dechristianization policy. Church conversion to Temple of Reason began that evening. Religious artifacts removed, revolutionary symbols installed. Catholic altar became podium for secular ceremonies. The congregation dispersed permanently. Religious practice in Saint-Germain. District ended completely. Dechristianization policy achieved total success through child sacrifice. Other constitutional priests witnessed Gregoire's surrender, abandoned religious resistance throughout Paris. Revolutionary terror succeeded where legal pressure failed. Corrupted, hanged, converted. Number 7, the Food Taster Massacre. February 9th, 1794, Committee of Public Safety Headquarters. Paranoia had consumed the leadership. Robespierre demanded food tasters after 3 poisoning attempts. 12 volunteers from loyal sans-culotte families. They ate every meal first, waiting 30 minutes before the committee dined. On February 9th, all 12 collapsed during dinner preparation. Convulsions, bleeding from eyes and mouth, arsenic poisoning. The committee assumed betrayal. All 12 were guilty of attempted assassination through reverse poisoning, a conspiracy so elaborate it proved their treachery. Logic was irrelevant. Terror demanded blood. They were tortured for 72 hours to extract the poison network. No network existed. Under extreme duress, they accused each other, their families, their neighbors. 63 additional arrests followed. The 12 died under torture, not execution. Official records list them as victims of royalist poison plot. The real poisoner was never found because the investigation stopped with the first confessions. Committee paranoia reached pathological levels by February 1794. 3 documented poisoning attempts against Robespierre since December. First, arsenic in wine at dinner celebration, detected by unusual taste. Second, cyanide powder mixed into breakfast bread, discovered through informant warning. Third, mercury compounds introduced to water supply, caught through chemical testing. Each attempt convinced the committee of systematic assassination conspiracy. Food tasting. Protocol began January 15th. 12 volunteers selected from most loyal sans-culotte families. Men who had participated in September massacres, storming of Bastille, execution of Louis XVI, revolutionary credentials beyond question. They received double rations as compensation, priority housing assignments for families, guaranteed employment in government positions. The tasting system was comprehensive. Every food item consumed by committee members required prior testing. Bread, wine, meat, vegetables, even water had designated tasters. 30-minute waiting period allowed poison detection through taster illness or death. Committee members remained protected while maintaining normal dietary habits. February 9th began routinely. Breakfast testing at 7 in the morning. All 12 tasters consumed standard portions of committee fare. Bread, cheese, wine, dried fruit. Waiting period observed without incident. Committee breakfast proceeded normally. Lunch testing at noon followed identical protocol. Evening dinner. Testing began at 5:30. Dinner menu included roast chicken, winter vegetables, wine from Bordeaux vineyards. 12 tasters consumed portions simultaneously at 5:45. Waiting period extended to 45 minutes due to meat inclusion. Committee members gathered in dining room at 6:30, prepared to eat. 6:37, first taster, collapsed. Jean-Baptiste Rousseau, age 26, son of executed aristocrat, sans-culotte radical. Violent convulsions, foaming at mouth, bleeding from eyes. Others followed within minutes. 12 men writhing on dining room floor, screaming in agony. Symptoms consistent with acute arsenic poisoning. Committee response was immediate and paranoid. 12 loyal revolutionaries couldn't simultaneously poison themselves accidentally. Coordination required conspiracy. Their suffering proved elaborate deception designed to convince authorities of innocence, while committee members died from same poison. Reverse psychology applied to assassination attempts. Investigation began during the death throes. Fouquier-Tinville dispatched interrogation specialists, while tasters still convulsed. Questions shouted over dying screams. Who ordered the poisoning? Which royalist agent recruited you? How much were you paid? Answers were incomprehensible gurgling, interpreted as stubborn resistance to confession. Torture commenced before death completed. Surviving tasters dragged to basement cells, subjected to enhanced interrogation while poison completed its work. Hot iron applied to convulsing bodies. Water cure administered, despite existing respiratory distress. Strappado employed on dislocated limbs already twisted by poison spasms. Confession extracted through pain, compounding chemical agony. 72. Hours of interrogation produced comprehensive conspiracy narrative. Tasters accused each other of poisoning collusion, named family members as royalist contacts, identified neighbors as foreign agents, implicated local shopkeepers in supply chain corruption. 63 arrests followed within 1 week. Death came slowly for all 12. Arsenic poisoning typically requires 6 to 20 hours to kill healthy adults. Torture accelerated the process through additional physical trauma. Average survival time was reduced to 14 hours through interrogation methods. All died in basement cells, officially from poison rather than torture. Investigation ended with first confessions. No attempt made to identify actual poisoning source. Kitchen staff accepted taster guilt without question. Food supply chains remained unchanged. Security protocols continued unchanged. Committee paranoia satisfied through scapegoat punishment rather than problem solving. But here's what the committee never recorded. Construction workers renovating the committee headquarters in 1857 found something in the building's foundation. A sealed room below the kitchens, 12. Skeletons chained to the walls, scratch marks on the stone where fingernails wore down to bone. Hand carved into the floor with a metal spoon. The bread was clean. They weren't the poisoners. They were the evidence that had to disappear. The revolution ate its own children, then buried the bones beneath the House of Justice. The sealed room contained additional evidence ignored by revolutionary investigation. Chemical analysis of bone fragments showed arsenic concentrations consistent with massive poisoning, but also traces of mercury, lead, and other heavy metals, suggesting long-term contamination rather than acute assassination attempt. Committee. Headquarters suffered from environmental poisoning through contaminated water supply and poorly maintained food storage. Kitchen inspection records from 1857 revealed structural problems dating to Revolutionary period. Lead pipes corroded into water supply. Root cellar flooding introduced soil. Contaminants into stored vegetables. Grain storage areas infested with mercury-treated pest control compounds. Cumulative heavy metal exposure created conditions mimicking deliberate poisoning. The 12 food tasters died from environmental contamination, not enemy conspiracy. Their torture and murder eliminated witnesses to committee facility problems. Revolutionary paranoia manufactured assassination plot from infrastructure failure. Truth remained buried until renovation workers discovered the evidence 53 years later. Their message carved into stone became revolutionary epitaph. The bread was clean. Final testimony to innocence preserved in darkness beneath revolutionary. Justice. Terror consumed truth along with its victims. The revolution's promise of rational governance ended in basement cells, where innocent men scratched final words into stone with makeshift tools. Paranoia perfected, logic abandoned, justice buried alive.